Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up for you today. Leaked, Saudi Arabia is ditching the dollar, they're saying, and we've got so much more about the international monetary system. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and digperspectives.com for exclusive content. Right now, $2.5 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is off by 2.2% in the last 24 hours. Bitcoin right now, 65,300 plus. We see Ethereum 3,500 plus. Tether market cap 112 billion plus, and USDC 32 billion plus. XRP is at 50 cents. We're up 3.4 on the 24 and up 2% on the 7-day. Range of price very quickly here is actually at 52 cents now. So we're at 52 cents and we're ranging between 48 and 52 cents. We are at the top of that range. Hey, if XRP wants to get out and go for a jog today, none of us are going to be upset, especially with the kind of news that we're going to have to take a look at today. Let's start right here. The international monetary system collapsed in 1914, 1939, and again in 1971. 2008 tested the system, but central banks delayed the inevitable with quantitative easing and a plandemic. I added that part. Now they're eating losses. A collapse often signifies the rebirth of a new system. So many signals represent we are getting closer. More trade in local currencies, gold being stockpiled, the onset and introduction of central bank digital currencies, hot conflicts around the world, BRICS getting bigger, Western financial system being weaponized, SWIFT sanctions. It would be easy to continue to go on. This is what happened when the foundation shakes. I want you to listen to this clip.
Potential upside. They believe that the S&P has even greater upside. Josh Brown, where do you stand?
Look, I have a message for everyone watching this. If you want to know what professionals are, or at least should be telling clients right now, it's very simple. Get out of cash. Get out of cash. If you have money that you're not using next year, later this year, tomorrow, and it doesn't need to be that liquid, if you have a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year time horizon on that pool of money, I want you to consider extending duration. I'm not asking you to take credit risk. You could do this with treasuries, no problem. But you are going to now see rate cuts. You're seeing softening in the data. The rate cuts will be justified. I'm not saying you're going to see some sort of like massive economic turndown, but I think your days of 5.5% yields risk-free are coming to an end. I don't know the exact date. I don't predict interest rate moves, but it feels very likely to me that the smarter bet, if you look back 5 years from now at a portfolio, the smarter bet will have been to extend those durations, accept less overnight yield, but have that runway so that you're earning more over time. We did this for...
Listen, Gary H. says, yes, into bonds we go. Look, we talk about this all the time in the DPMG, and you're welcome to join us in the Digital Perspective Mastermind group. It is a private weekly call. There's so many other things. There's great lessons and information in there. You won't believe the resources just from the members in the group. But nevertheless, you can join us in there. We have this conversation often. But here's something we need to pay attention to. Not only was that something to pay attention to, look, it's why I'm in this space. I realized early on that Ripple was solving a problem for payments and moving money around the world because I was a global importer at the time, and I understood the difficulty that I had sending money to China to have my goods made. And I understood all the things that came with it. Now, in that understanding got me in the space, and then once I got in the space, I really identified with the larger problem, which is the problem of the spillover shocks and the stress that exist on top of the United States dollar as the world reserve currency. That work led me to understand that out of the last 5 world reserve currencies, Two of them, Portugal and the Netherlands, had a lifespan of 80 years, where the other ones went to 100 to 105, 110. Because two of them had a lifespan of 80 years, it's worth noting that the United States is in its 80th year. So whether it's today or whether it's 10 years from now, something has to be done. That is why I believe that the technology of digital assets, distributed ledger technology, and blockchain and tokens was created. Don't believe it. I think it's still true. So with all of that, we know that we are seeing ourselves in a place where the United States dollar is either going to collapse soon or is at least eroding for the next several years. Either scenario is not favorable. IMF strikes U.S. dollar with a warning of U.S. dollar collapse, right? And then here we see, for those that follow the Mr. Poole stuff, showing the same article. And I'm guessing that they're showing this because this was back in 2020, right? And then here we are seeing this 4 years later. Now, I don't follow Mr. Poole, but I find it pretty interesting that he's sharing an image like this in 2020, right? So, again, I've had talks with Big Skinny here on this channel going back 6 years. And we've been talking about the idea that he said, look, this is all to avoid World War III because of the Petrodollar agreement. And that was a light bulb for me years ago because I didn't take much to sell me on it because I already knew that the Fed was working with Ripple back then. So immediately in my mind, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, something is going to have to happen. Now, I've come to believe currently today that the thing to replace the gold standard, I know, was the Petrodollar agreement, because that is not being renewed or unwound, however you choose to see it. Well, you're about to see this right here. I believe the next thing to replace it will be a distributed ledger technology ledger that happens to also operate and serve as a decentralized exchange for the world. You know, the XRP ledger. But listen to this.
This is the biggest thing people are not talking about. The BRICS nations have an agreement. They are going to move off of the dollar. They're going to stop trading in the dollar. They're going to stop trading in the petrodollar. They are going to start using their own currencies, or they may come up with an agreed upon currency, not the dollar, that they will trade with. This is going to destroy America's economy. You think inflation is bad right now? Wait until all of these countries stop trading in the dollar. Inflation will be out of control, and our dollar will plummet. This is how they will destroy America, and it's our own fault. Steve, it's our own fault because of our country's non-stop interventionist, foreign war-causing, regime-changing, horrible attitude in Washington, D.C., and it makes me so upset.
We're going to take a short commercial break, but 48 hours
Listen.
after MTG, Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, said that on the War Room, 48 hours, it was leaked out of Riyadh that the Saudis are getting out of the agreement for petrodollars.
There you go. So that's where we're hearing it being said right in front of a congressional representative. And she is not pushing back on that, saying that is not the case. Now, let me take you here. Here it is right here. This is why XRP Las Vegas is so important. This is Chris Giancarlo, who I hope will become the next SEC chairman with the change of an administration after the election. That's my hope. I want you to listen to what we talk about stablecoins and why they're so very important. Take a listen. So at this point, if we look at, if we just look at the things that are happening, just the inflation, the money printing, we all in this room know that it's unsustainable. And we don't get an email when it hits that wall. There's a line in the sand when it comes to money. And this is so funny because as involved as the construct of the financial system is, there's an imaginary line in the sand called confidence. And once it's lost,
absolutely,
that piece of paper isn't worth anything.
That's right.
And what I see coming, and I want you to speak to this from just from the Digital Dollar Project. What I'm seeing is this unavoidable moment in the front of us, and there has to be someone at some point has to come forward and allow these new use cases to be happening, like stablecoins, private issuers, because I see like this hyperinflation moment. Now, I'm not trying to be an alarmist. I don't know whether it slides greatly or what's that scale look like. I can't tell you, but everybody knows that it's a high probability of happening. We just don't know how bad it gets, right? But if you introduce this ability for these new issuers to have a stable coin, then they are the ones that soak up like a sponge or a bulkhead that catch these hyperinflated dollars that are coming back home. Could you speak to that? There you go.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you put your finger on it. I think the biggest...
And there you go. I'm glad you put your finger on it. You know, let me take you to another spot too, by the way.
Grand experiment for about 60 years now of 50 years now of depegging the dollar from commodities. Well, we may need to repeg it to a commodity in the future to regain its strength.
Hello. Hello. Listen. Well, Chris, that brings me to this. We talk about this quite a bit, me and my friends here. You know, and when I think about what you referenced with the gold standard and then changing over to the petrodollar agreement, Saudi Arabia has started doing deals in Chinese yuan and showing that is not exclusive in honoring that exclusivity agreement for military protection for the United States, Chris. And when I think of that, I say to myself, to your point, I think you have to go to some kind of a digital tokenized commodity to back the dollar again. But again, you have to go another step further and you have to underpin it with some kind of value protocol, if you might know one that we could use that would help track it all. You guys might know one? Because I feel like what the mistake could have been, dare I say it, is moving to a petrodollar agreement, even though at the time we had the power and strength to offer that military protection. In this day and age, now those countries have the advantage to dump that dollar in those bonds and harm all of us. But if we use what you're talking about and use a digital commodity to back the dollar and put it on a value protocol that just happens to have a decentralized ledger, right? Then we could underpin the dollar for the next 150 years. What say you at the digital dollar project?
So I say yes.
Then we could underpin the dollar for the next 150 years. What say you at the digital dollar project?
So I say yes. And let's add one other thing to that. Let's also win this war with our values.
Yes. So let's take a look at this real quick. Rothschilds makes major entry into Saudi Arabia. How's it feeling to you now? With news of Saudi Arabia abandoning the petrodollar and rumored to be interested in joining BRICS, Edmund de Rothschild Bank is partnering with SMB Capital, Saudi Arabia's largest asset manager, which manages over $66 billion. 66, you say? The Rothschilds will provide funding for projects related to the Vision 2020-30 Agenda initiative of the country. The plan is spearheaded by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and Edmund de Rothschilds last year also expanded its presence into Dubai as well. How about that? So, look, you know, all of this to me, for me, this is why I'm here. This is why it's important for me to be on stage and to talk to people like the Honorable Chris Giancarlo, former CFTC chairman, head of the Digital Dollar Project, and may very well become the next SEC chairman. I'd love to see that. And this is where we are. 59 countries have expressed interest in joining BRICS in 2024. This is all about moving away from the US dollar. What else in the world is designed right now that we could use and build and inject liquidity and utility into to protect us as the United States and citizens in the government who hold the US dollar, as well as complement the new monetary system as it moves and transitions from a debt-based system to an asset-backed system, why it is the XRP ledger and distributed ledger technology broadly. Right here, Wall Street Journal, right place, right time, almost as if it was all planned. Replace the petrodollar, prevent World War III. I think this is so spot on. Mike Benz here says the Treasury will reply to Saudi Arabia ending the petrodollar by heavily pushing crypto stablecoins like Tether, Circle, and I believe the real US dollar, and maybe not as much as Tether as you may think. But this here is the op-ed of Wall Street Journal with former Congressman Paul Ryan explaining stablecoins backed dollars provide demand for US public debt, a way to keep up with China. It also talks about the fact that you're bringing a new use case is what you're doing, because that is what you're doing, right? This is really what we're talking about here. I said this on stage with Cristiano Carlo, Paul Ryan saying it, but yet there's people around here telling us we're all a bunch of conspiracy people. Look, I don't care why people are here. I don't care if you're in here because you watched and followed a cartoon Riddler. I don't care if you've been a lifelong investor or you just feel like you missed the investment window and this is the moment you're trying to correct your portfolio and get something going, or what it is. It doesn't matter. Maybe you're a technologist. The good news is that you're here. I'll say it again. We don't have to have the same reasons in order to fight for the same cause. But you can know without any confusion, this is the reason and my cause. 30, 50 trillion, we've all seen the video, Archax working with Ripple, and Graham Rodford claiming that he believes we received 30 to 50 trillion on the ledger, real world asset tokenization. We've heard talk about 16 trillion. Let's go ahead and just make it 10. What's the market look like at 10? And what would it look like if XRP regarded as a currency? Because we know what it isn't. It is not a security. But we've yet to have the government tell us what it actually is. And that's why I believe we go all the way to the Supreme Court. You know, when something's a note, I may have just been a little early on that point. Eggrag Crypto says, next triangle consolidation for XRP. In the future, newbies will say XRP is stagnant around $50 instead of 50 cents. They will say XRP only pumped from $50 to $200. They will never comprehend 7 years of conviction and dedication. Even XRP ledger builders are starting to nag and feel frustration. And they've had help. XRP Army, stay steady. We are living in an exponential age. Understand that all previous models will be thrown out the window because they will not apply to the fourth industrial revolution. This is the truth from one of the OG technical analysts that we've all known. There will be a level of adoption that cannot be predicted on the chart, is what he's explaining to you. Because no one has any metric to understand the true application of how fast or not the adoption of this technology will be, which will be introducing and rolling out to the world the new fourth industrial revolution. That's what we're talking about here. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.